He's a strange mixture of cunning and cleverness and stupidity. I've been telling everybody in the United States that the way you have to deal with Donald Trump is you have to take yourself back to the time when you were raising toddlers, you know, and it's like, oh, what a very clever child you are. Oh no, now you've crayoned all over the wall, you know. I mean, he has a toddler-like mix of cleverness and with huge blank spots in between.
But why do you think Americans who are now discovering what his cuts are going to mean for their lives thought that he was going to be an ally, that he was like them? I mean, have they been conned or were they stupid?
Well, no, I don't think they were stupid. I think they were desperate. I think we see this around the world. That we're in this midst of a rebellion against the elites, and after all, the elites do have to take some blame for this. I mean, elite diplomacy, elite politics, and so on really deeply, badly mishandled the Middle East. They badly mishandled the integration of Europe. The EU managed to sort of pack the dog with the cat on all sorts of issues. People are feeling that the elites of society are letting them down. They're desperate to shake things up. The problem is which empty coffee can do you pick in which to shake things up? And Trump was a naive choice. So I would say, and then again, how disappointed will his supporters be? Well, it won't be for a while because we're in the business. We follow this all very carefully, and we're seeing indications of complete clumsiness and ignorance from the president. But people who don't follow politics at a micro level aren't going to see this for another 5 or 6 months. They're going to still keep supporting the idea. He's shaking everything up, isn't he? And of course the Democrats are squealing, you know, and the liberals are all angry. And for a while, Trump supporters will be satisfied that everything Trump does seems to make the liberals and the mainstream media and all the pundits like myself makes us furious, and they'll be happy about that for a while. It'll take a while for this to sink home that he's not their friend.
So have you worked out what is the right way to tackle him or to critique him? You know, a way that doesn't just make him stronger?
No, I haven't. You know, merely making fun of the guy obviously doesn't work. No end of fun has been made of him. You know, Saturday Night Live has been absolutely fabulous on this, but the problem is Donald Trump does a better Donald Trump than Alex Baldwin does, you know, so yeah, it has to be an oblique attack, and I would certainly say to his opposition, to his direct opposition, as opposed to, you know, the people like me who are deeply disappointed that my side put this guy forward. But the people who really, really oppose him, who gathered on the mall in little pink hats and so on, I say, you know, watch out here. You know, keep your powder dry. You know, fight. It's a war against stupidity, and it has to be fought battle by battle. It can't be fought with shrieking. It can't be fought with smugness. It can't be fought simply by making fun of the other side. I think Hillary must have learned that when basket of deplorables popped out of her mouth. Might have been the single strongest campaign slogan for Trump supporters that there was.
Doesn't it then make it quite easy for him to win another term? I mean, all he needs to do is win some jobs, do something in those Rust Belt states that he can claim is his, and he'll say, well, I'm doing what I said I'd do.
Yeah, well, that's a long way out. A second term is a long way out. And, you know, one never, ever in this world wants to wish for a crisis. But, you know, all the wounds in the Trump administration have been self-administered. Our bomb squads here in the United States have a term for people who are making bombs and blow themselves up. And it's called a self-criticizing exercise. Wonderful phrase, I think. And so everything with the Trump administration so far has been a self-criticizing exercise. But trouble will come from the outside. No president has ever managed to avoid it. No prime minister either. You know, no leader of a democratic state has ever managed to avoid an exterior crisis that's not caused by themselves. And it's not a matter of if, but when that crisis happens, then I think we'll see the mettle of the man, and I don't think there's much mettle there.
Do you think it will have to be a really big crisis, though? Because what we see is, as you say, all these sort of self-inflicted wounds don't seem to matter. I mean, the latest one about where the British intelligence were the ones who were really bugging him, you know, which British intelligence have said, well, GCHQ have said was rubbish and shouldn't be believed, and then the White House have said, OK, we won't say that anymore. I mean, that in the old days would have been regarded as a massive gaffe. But right now, it just doesn't seem to matter.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, we definitely are in the off into the blowhard era, and you know, I think people do recognize that he's a blowhard, but gosh, it's just such a strange phenomenon to have the President of the United States, that all of his aides and his press secretary and so are forced into using air quotes about everything that he says. And it's so 90s, you know, I thought air quotes had kind of gone out of fashion, but no, they've suddenly come back in, and, you know, oh, well, you got to understand, you know, I mean, he's just blowing off some steam here. It's, you know, when it's not like dealing with a toddler, it's like dealing with a drunk uncle, you know, at Christmas dinner, you know, I mean, and he doesn't drink. That's the scary part.
I mean, the thing is, when he first came into power, a lot of people were saying, but the people around him are all very good, they're very clever, they're really serious people. But then, as you say, I mean, the people we see who are around him would not necessarily get that description.
No. I mean, you know, his initial cabinet appointments, I think, surprised people by there's some obvious goof-ups there, but basically, he did appoint serious and knowledgeable people. But I think the worry is that, you know, does he listen to anyone? Although that might be a bright spot in a way. I mean, people have been terrified by the Steve Bannon character because he's the intellectual force behind the Trump administration. Well, this is the least intellectual of any administration in the United States since forever. And so Steve Bannon may have a lot of push, but I think he's kind of pushing against air. You know, I think we really have a case. Well, you can tell by the way the man dresses. You know, he wears these astonishingly expensive suits, these Brioni Italian suits. They cost a moon landing, you know, and yet they don't fit him. And his necktie is down around his knees. And here's a man who just not only doesn't listen to policy advisors, he doesn't even listen to his tailor, or obviously his barber. He's got that I don't listen look.
Do you like what he's done in terms of pushing back against the liberals and people you would describe as sort of politically correct? The people you've always been pretty scornful of as well, though. I mean, are you an ally of his in any way?
No, I'm really not. I understand the appeal of his pushback against these things, but it's not a reasoned pushback, and I mean his attitude toward refugees and immigrants, you know, cuts any possible support I might have felt for Donald Trump is simply cut off at the knees at that kind of xenophobia and scapegoating. I mean, you know, have we learned nothing from the 20th century? I mean, we had a really awful century there, you know, between from August 1914 until the fall of the Berlin Wall. Just about everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And have we learned nothing from that? And the bigotry, of course, being first on the list.
How long do you think he's got?
Good question. A lot of people, you know, there's a lot of discussion of what's the over-under on when we get President Pence. Again, I think it's so dependent on exterior factors, you know. If it were merely interior factors, if we were island America and we weren't on this planet, you know, he would probably muddle along for 4 years, possibly even longer if the Democrats can't come up with somebody better to run than they did the last time. Democrats could easily snatch defeat from the jaws of victory here. But given that we don't live on another planet and that there is an external world out there, you know, you have to sort of hope for the best here. You don't want to, like I say, you don't want to wish for a crisis. And you sort of have to hope that he kind of muddles through and that the great amoeba that is the Washington establishment sort of surrounds him and dissolves him and digests him eventually. That's sort of the best case scenario. But we'll see.